Continuing on with our V5 series, I've got a Ventru build that is a little bit unusual unless you happen to be a friend of mine named Marcus. This is a sort of Mithras combat Ventru deck. It's a bit high cap, which could be weak against some of the decks in the early game, but once it gets online, you're going to get a lot of control of the game. And there's some ways to keep you alive early if you happen to draw into it. There's a little bit of instability here, I acknowledge that, but the payoff can be quite worth it if you get seated just right. So we're running Mithras, obviously. Very good vampire, +1 strength, +2 bleed, +2 votes. Burns blood from vampires trying to block or vote against him. You're not really going to do a lot of voting in this deck. You could maybe go that route, but didn't really feel like that's the right play for this. Alexa Draper, or Draper, however you say that. You got a prince in here that can give you another vote advantage. These kinds of things are nice because just in case you end up in a situation where vote is going to be a problem, you've got the authority you need to sort of push it over the line. Valerius can also happen to get a Camarilla title, just in case you need it. And then Hamid Mansour and Ashri Dahan are here to be your low cap dominate vampires. If you happen to flip these early on, these give you a nice way to be able to deflect early game to get you enough time to get out Mithras. If you feel like you might want to try a little bit more, you can always up 1 or 2 of these and drop down a couple of Mithras because you are going to be playing the Mithrium. This is a nice way to get Mithras if you can't find him. You don't want to run too many, so we're only running 2 of them. But if you happen to flip it, it's going to be a card that benefits you. We're also running a set of Mithric cultists, an old magic set as it would be, and 4 in terms of 4. This is a nice card to give you some additional defense and a handful of extra votes. You really should be able to make sure you don't end up losing to voting. This may even be a deck to convert into a voting deck with this. But I wanted to go a little different with it. Maybe it was the wrong direction. We'll see. Grooming is very nice. If you've got big cat vampires, you can feed your blood down to them instead of having to pass it through via Villain, but still running a few Villains to keep you alive. Parapotence disciplines for the vampires that don't have it at Superior, or maybe to give to your little guys that might want it. Ventru headquarters, probably not necessary, but I don't know. Votes happen sometimes, and you really don't want to be on the losing end of them. Obvious hunting ground is obvious. And Island of Yaros is pretty good in deck that's going to have some titled vampires and wants to do combat. Running 7 governs to try to bring out the vampires once you got Big Mithras out. Pair of Heroic Might, because getting this on can really set the difference in combat. Show of Forces, because again, when you're bleeding in, people don't necessarily want to stop it if they think they're going to get punched for 3 or more. And then some bonding and conditioning to push up the bleeds. Set of freak drives so that you can do a couple of things in a turn if you need to, or be ready to deflect. A handful of seductions, good amount of deflections, and then some additional stuff. Disarm, maybe not necessary with as much damage as you're dealing, but interesting thing to play with. Set of hidden strengths. This should be a good package. If you are running disarm, this gives you a nice way to prevent the damage and make sure that you're doing the damage to put them to torpor. Grapple is really good, just pretty much essential here. And then some taste to make sure you fill back up so you can Villain or Grooming eternally. It is possible that the better play might be to, instead of Show of Force, to run political actions. If you were going to do that, I would probably just run a handful of KRCs as an option, maybe trim down the Govern. You can replace out some of the bondings and conditionings as well for some vote push cards, which you may or may not need. Might be something to experiment with. It might be something that I talk to you about next time I review this deck. Either way, thank you for your time. Take care.